I am Brittany Simmons with the Alabama State Department of Education in the Federal Program section. And today for our YouTube channel, we will discuss comparability. So, welcome to the Chef Special, Comparability Cuisine. Comparability is very similar to cooking. It depends on your ingredients, your recipients, and a whole lot of factors. So, depending on who you're cooking for and what you're cooking with determines if you will have a successful dish. And the same can be said about comparability. It is important to keep in mind that your comparability does not necessarily mean that it will mimic your neighbor's comparability report. In essence, comparability is to make sure that Title I services are supplemental, that they are the extra cherry on top. And even though it is a federal requirement, we do not evaluate federal funds in this measurement. We only look at the state and local allocations, personnel, whatever the metric is, we're solely concerned with state and local funds, even though this is a Title I requirement. And it's just to make sure that everything that Title I provides is extra, is in addition to, is on top of the required allocated state and local resources. So just like with any dinner party, some of us are heavy eaters and some of us are light. And a lot of you will not make it past the appetizer round. So for our hors d'oeuvres, we will discuss the exemption. The very first one, if you are only one school per grade span, that means if I wanted to enroll a fourth grader, there's only one building my fourth grader could go to. Same thing with my junior. My junior could only go to one building. If you are one of the school districts that has one school per grade span, you should see yourself highlighted in yellow. Again, this is for fiscal year 25. If you decide to build more schools in your district or consolidate, this may change. But for right now, you are exempt from demonstrating comparability. If you ever want to know how we've determined this, go to your building eligibility page, and as you can see, Jasper City, although they have 5 school buildings, a fourth grader can only attend one of them. The same thing with an 11th grader. It's one school, one grade span per group school. The second exemption is if your LEA has less than 1,000 students. This we know can change overnight, so it's very important to document the day that you take your enrollment when doing your comparability report. But for right now, the districts that are highlighted in this aqua color did not have 1,000 students. We gathered this information from the Ames portal, and as you can see, Greene County on February 12, 2025 only had 843 students. The last comparability exemption is if you're a single school LEA. This affects most of our charter schools. If you ever wanted to look at this, again, it can be found on the building eligibility, and as you can see, Magic City literally has one building. So, if you are highlighted, I'm sorry, but you won't make it past the appetizer. You don't have to demonstrate comparability, but you do have to submit the comparability waiver. It's fairly simple. You fill out the information, you check your appropriate box. If you need to know where to locate the comparability waiver, in EGAP 2.0, on the left side, please select ALSDE resources, and this page will appear. Go to the EGAP 2.0 Consolidated Application Required Documents, select Comparability, and there you will see the waiver in a PDF and Word document. For those of us who are still pondering on what's coming, we have to think about the situation that we're in. If your district serves all schools, meaning that every school receives Title I funds, then you're on a different path than someone who serves only some of their Title I schools. So for Title I want you to think of this image. As you can see, there's Everything is different, everything is unique, but they're pretty much the same. There's a range of what you can put on this plate. However, on this side, oh, for some of us, that's very appealing, all the things. I'm more this. And then we have some that are that. But as you can see, the title and non-title cuisines have a wide selection. It's pretty much whatever your plate can hold or whatever your stomach can hold. Whereas the title one, only so much can fit on that plate. Everything has to kind of be the same. And I want you to keep these images in mind as we go through the examples. So for round two, let's discuss how do we demonstrate comparability. We passed the hors d'oeuvres, so we're getting to the meat but not quite at the meat. And this comes before we make our selection for the primary data selection. There are 4, but 98%, yes, 98% of the LEAs in Alabama use student instructional staff ratios. We have one district that does the expenditures per pupil. That's not to say that we are not encouraging others to do B, C, or D. I'm just highlighting that 98% of us use option A. So when I say instructional staff, what do I mean? This is anyone who provides instruction, supports instruction, or supervises instruction, not simply just teachers. However, we don't want to get in a slippery slope of including people like our cafeteria workers, our custodians, our bus drivers. Yes, they are vital, but they will not qualify for this. When paraprofessionals, we ask LEAs to be very cautious. If your paraprofessional is truly instructional, truly supporting instructional services, include them. But if they're bus aides or student aides, please exclude them from this report. And as I said at the very beginning, even though comparability is a federal requirement, we are only looking at the state and local resources. So do not include any federally funded staff, no matter the position. If they are paid with federal funds, please exclude them. So that was for the primary, meaning we have a secondary. And my personal favorite is grade span. Simple to use. But you can also separate by poverty or by size or by the amount of per pupil. So it just depends. But I personally like grade span grouping. So round 3, we're getting kind of stuffed, but we can still stomach some more, right? So on this eye test, we will do some examples together, and then I will let you work on one before I give you the answers. But remember this road. If you are all Title I, remember that plate that everyone kind of looked the same? Well, in Title I, everyone should fit in a range, 90 to 110% of that student instructional staff ratio. And do you remember on the other side with the title and non-title where anything could fit, as long as it could fit? Well, it's pretty much the same with title and non-title. There's only a maximum. So with Title I, here's the math. We will take that average, whatever it may be, and we will multiply it twice to get the minimum and the maximum. When we multiply it by 0.90, that would give us the minimum, and when we multiply it by 1.1, that would give us the maximum. And for the title and non-title, we will only worry about the maximum, only worry about how much that plate could hold. It could be a wide selection, but we only worried about the max. So in this example, it's very important to understand, do we have all title or title and non-title? And at the very top, we see that everything is Title I. We know that they cannot be exempt. Why? Because if I have a third grader, they could go in several schools. This district has well over 1,000 students and it has more than one school. So they must demonstrate comparability. So as you can see, I've calculated a total and I have my ratio. This ratio is 16.0. And now I have to multiply it by what again? Well, I'm glad you asked. When it is all title, when every school is served. you must multiply and get the range of 90 to 110%. So we will multiply that 16.0 times 0.90 and by 1.1. And we will have a range of 14.4 to 17.6. And as you can see, unfortunately, we have two districts that are outside this range. For my visual learners, again, it was 16.0, and I multiplied it by 0.90 to get my minimum, and then I multiplied it by 1.1 to get my maximum. And as you can see, Common and Misty are outside of that. So all is not lost. I just may need to use one of those secondary measurements. And again, I've hinted and I hinted again, my favorite is simply grade spans. So looking at this, I have three distinct grade spans. I have elementary PK through 5, I have middle 6 through 8, and then I have one high school 9 through 12. So let me separate by grade spans. I want to collect all the elementary, compare, all middle, compare, and then do my high school. So when I do my elementary, I have a new ratio, right? A new ratio, 15.2, which will give me a new range when I multiply 15 by 2 by 90% and 110%. And that range is 13.7 to 16.7. And as you can see, all of my schools now are comparable. Yes, for my visual learners. When I do my middle school, I have a new range of 17.5. Okay, a new range. And when I multiply it by 0.90 and 1.1, I have a new range of 15.8 and 19.3. And as you can see, Sky and Misty are now comparable. My visual learners. Now, I only had one high school. And hypothetically, we could multiply 0.90 and 1.1, but it should be comparable because it's all by itself. So anytime we have one that's just straggling in this grade span, we can say that the grade span is comparable. But for my visual learners, as you can see, it is in the green. So again, with Title I, we always will have a range. If everyone is Title I, we will have a range. However, we have a mix, we only have a maximum. So let's look at this example, where only some of our schools are Title I. And those schools are elementary. Like all of my served schools are elementary. So it's no need to compare my elementary to my high. My high is not being served. My middle schools are not being served. So I'm going to compare my elementary, the served versus the non-served. And as you can see, I made that distinction. So here's the question. Which one should I do the calculations for? The non-title or the title? I'm glad you asked. As you can see, Title I is considered comparable if its average does not exceed 110% of the average of non-Title I schools. So we do the calculations for the non-title to determine the title. So we do the calculations with non-title. And as you can see, when I go to my non-title, I have a ratio of 15.1. I don't have a range, right? All I have to do is multiply it by that maximum, which is 1.1. And that would give me 16.6. And luckily for me, all of my elementary are under this 16.6. So I have demonstrated comparability. And for my visual learners. So I just want to clarify, for the sake of time and my enthusiasm, most of us do the student instructional staff ratios, 98% of us, but there are three other options. Primary data selection. However, with that secondary, although I love grade spans, I do want to briefly show you that you can separate by size. So in this example, we've done the calculations. We have a situation where we have two schools that are non-comparable. I see two very large schools, and my math mind just knows that this is skewing my data. So I look at the smallest school I have, and the smallest school I have is Greer. Now this is just my rule. This is a Brittany rule, not a Fedge rule. Greer, I know, is 4 times smaller than Eanes High School. Okay, so I'm going to take Greer, that 371. I'm not rounding up, I'm actually going to round down. And that'll give me 300, right? I'm going to say 300 times 2 because it's the twice the size rule. Now, that is from the feds, twice the size. So I'm going to say 300 times 2 is 600. So I will pick 600 to be my cutoff point. Now, we could do 750 because we have a school that's larger than 750 times 2. You could pick 800, but I'm just going to go with the very smallest, round down, and multiply by 2. That's Brittany's method. So for all my schools that are under 600, when I look at them and everyone is Title 1, I know I have a range. My new ratio is 15.0. I multiply it by 0.90 and by 1.1. And I have a new range of 13.5 to 16.5. So I am comparable with every school under 600 student enrollment. And if I do that with the schools that are above 600, I have a new ratio of 14.9. I have a new range of 14.9 to 18.2. And again, all the schools are comparable. Okay, with comparability, yes, just do it anyway. We're not good at it, okay? But it's just like with cooking. We kept trying until we actually became good cooks, okay? Right? Okay. So just keep going. So, here is a problem for you. You can pause me. Okay. Hopefully you paused or you just got impatient, but hopefully I didn't make you wait too long. The first thing is, what is our ratio? And our ratio is 13.1. So now since everyone is served, okay, because if you look underserved, SW, everyone is a Title I school, we have a range. And we're going to multiply that 13.1 by both 0.90 to have 11.8. Uh-oh, I have two that don't fit. Do you see another one? Of course you do. Great job. So we have 3 schools that are under the range. Are there any that's above it? So we take that 13.1 and multiply it by 1.1. And now we have 14.4. Do we have a situation? Unfortunately, yes. But there are some bright sides. Everyone else is comparable. So at this time, pause me. Okay. So did you try at least to figure out how to make them comparable, or were you just waiting on me? If you were doing the latter, it's okay. I didn't make you wait too long. Again, I've told you before and before. With comparability, it's about your preference, knowing your district. And for me, I love school separating by grade spans. I really do. Like, it's my thing. And when I look at this, I have 3 distinct grade spans, that 4 through 8, that 9 through 12, and K3. I really can't compare it to anything. I don't feel comfortable comparing it to anything. So just going to exclude them. Now, if you wanted to, you could force K3 to be an elementary school. You could force K4 through 8 to be a middle school. You could go in the weeds. But for right now, I like to keep it clean and crisp. So I don't have anything that fits nicely to that. So they are excluded because they're comparable within themselves. That will leave me, and these are the 3 schools I'm discussing. That will leave me with this. I can work with this. I have 2 distinct grade spans, K through 8 and K-12. And since everyone is school-wide, I know that I will have a range. So on top, I will put all my K-8s, and at the bottom, I will put all my K-12s, and we will decide comparability. You can pause me. Okay, so maybe you tried, maybe you didn't, but no judgment. So with our K-8, our ratio is 10.1. And since everyone is school-wide, we're going to have a range. Multiply by 0.90, multiply by 1.1, and as you can see, both schools are comparable. They fall in that range. Same thing with our K-12. Our new ratio is 13.4. We multiply it by 0.90. We multiply it by 1.1. And as you can see, everyone is within that range. Everyone is comparable. So if someone asks you, what is comparability? What could you say? What is your elevator pitch? I'm a visual learner, so here's my elevator pitch. Think of two cupcakes. The cupcake, what you see, are the state and local funds that they give to every school based on whatever calculation. But Title I, they receive extra. They receive extra from us. Comparability is letting Title I keep their cupcake and their extra. Being non-comparable means you're trying to take Title I's cupcake because they got the icing and the sprinkles. Same thing with Title I schools. Both receive state and local allocation. Both receive the fixings of being title. But for whatever reason, you take someone's sprinkle away. No, that's not being comparable. So I hope this clears up comparability. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email and we can discuss this further. Have a great afternoon.